All right, here
There
we
we
go.
go.
Let's just kind of do our little 2-minute spiel. Welcome to Sports Econ 101, the show where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality. Today's show is going to be interesting because we have David Carter coming on in the next, actually 2 segments from now. He's going to talk about sports business. He's president of Sports Business Group, and I'm sure he'll share some interesting tidbits with us. And at each commercial break, we're going to ask a sports trivia question. We're giving away vacations to the first 3 emails with the correct answer. And the vacations are not sponsored by the radio station, but by Lighthouse Resort and Marina. The vacations are free. Their only request, a $75 cleaning fee to cover the housekeeping expenses. Check them out at lighthouseresortandmarina.com. And let's see, today's trivia theme is going to be banned from baseball.
Ooh,
I thought that
we can talk about the Black Sox, huh?
Yeah.
Of
well,
1919.
Let's see, is this a Black Sox? No, there's no Black Sox.
Pete Rose,
questions.
No,
there's no Pete Rose question either.
Whoa,
Holy smokes.
interesting. Okay, well, there's been a few.
There's been a few. Yeah. It'll be kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then, what else are we going to talk about? Just,
whatever you want to discuss.
Okay.
I'm game.
All right.
Just throw it out there.
Okay. It's been a few weeks since our Warriors won.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. That was really special. I mean, I know a lot of our listeners are not from the West Coast, but we had a 40-year drought. And when you end 40 years of frustration, mostly frustration, it's really special.
To me, it was a spiritual awakening.
Yeah.
It just really hit to the core of me.
Well, you could see it coming. Edward, because I think when they went 21-2 to open the season, then they won something like 22 games in a row. Then, they finished with a 67-15 record, and you just thought, wow, nobody's even close to this.
Yeah.
I mean, and then you look at the playoffs. LeBron's Cavaliers are beat up. The Memphis Grizzlies had players that were hurt. Mike Conley was out. They're playing Houston. That's probably the one team you want to play in the conference finals. And they got to play New Orleans, which had no experience in the first round. So all the cards were in their favor.
Finally, it worked out.
It worked out.
All right. So stay tuned. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. When we come back, Bruce and I are going to talk about some more fun stuff on Sports Econ 101. Yeah,
It's fun looking at your listening to the past shows. Yeah, you can. It's fun. I just keep forgetting how many we've done.
2 years.
Yeah,
2.5. Going on 2.5.
So you're talking about over 120 or something?
Something like that.
Yeah. When did you start doing this?
May of 2013.
Yeah.
I think May 3rd.
And Vern was with us all the way through November last year, or no, even later.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I'd have to look back to see when. Yeah.
Such a bummer.
I know.
Yeah, he's so busy with that job. God, his wife just runs him through the poor guy. He's such a good guy. I mean, I like his wife. She's a sweetheart, but God almighty.
Well, it's just all the errands and stuff they used to do.
He's got 3 boys. He's got a full-time job, and I guess she's got taking care of those 3 boys. That's full-time work.
Yeah.
Well, how they work.
She doesn't work outside the home, does she?
I don't think so, but schedules and everything. Well, now his kids are what, 14, 12, and 8?
No, a little older than that.
Are they?
10. They're probably
10, 12, 10, 13, and
13, 15, something like that.
Yeah, Vern's such a good guy. He's one of the best people I've ever met.
I know. Always brings a smile on my face.
Yeah, he's always happy. He's got the happy cheek.
Yeah.
Which is really nice.
I know, even when he has no right to be happy.
He's in a good mood. I mean, I think that's why he's so successful with what he does, because he puts people at ease, and he's got a lot of enthusiasm and energy too, which counts for a lot.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
There we go.
All right.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Now, I gotta tell you that I thought it'd be kind of fun to start off with some jokes. I got some fun golf jokes here. You ready?
Okay, sure.
Okay. The police are called to an apartment and find a woman holding a bloody 3-iron standing over a lifeless man. The detective asks, "Ma'am, is that your husband?" "Yes," says the woman. "Did you hit him with that golf club?" Yes, I did." The woman begins to sob, drops the club, and puts her hands on her face. "How many times did you hit him?" She said, "I don't know, put me down for a 5.
Ooh.
I like that one. I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, boy.
Okay.
Okay, a little black humor. That's okay, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay.
A little dark humor.
little dark humor.
Yeah.
Okay, since you like that one, maybe you like this one. This one's kind of cute.
All right.
A gushy reporter told Phil Mickelson, "You're spectacular. Your name is synonymous with the game of golf. You really know your way around the course. What's your secret?" And Mickelson replied, "The holes are numbered."
Now that I could see actually him throwing that one out there because he's got a good sense of humor.
He does. Okay, last one here, and then we'll get on to some real sports. All right. So a husband and wife are on the 9th green when suddenly she collapses from a heart attack. "Help me, dear," she groans to her husband. The husband calls 911 on his cell phone, talks for a few minutes, picks up his putter, and lights up his putt. His wife raises her head off the green and stares at him. "I'm dying here, and you're putting?" "Don't worry, dear," says the husband calmly. "They found a doctor on the 2nd hole, and he's coming to help you." Because, "Well, how long will it take for him to get here?" she asks feebly. "There's no time at all," says her husband. Everybody's like, already agreed to let him play through.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, I love it. Those are good. I got to remember those.
That's a good one, yeah. Where do you get those from, anyway?
I honestly can't remember.
Yeah, that's good.
It's one of those secret things.
Yeah.
Okay.
Golf is a lot of fun to talk about, though. You can there's 100 stories there, 1,000 stories.
Yeah, you always get the fun. You always get the fun jokes from the.
I wish I was big into golf. My dad was a really good golfer. He was captain of his college team, and he had a beautiful swing. I'd get on that course with him. He'd make it look so easy, and once in a while, I'd hit the shot just perfectly. Yeah. And I think, man, I got my dad's stroke. You know,
this game's easy.
Yeah, this game's easy, and then I'd shank one off to the right.
Yeah.
And boy, that's frustrating.
It's the consistency.
Yeah. Well, he started playing when he was 7 years old.
Oh wow.
He started playing at 6 and 7 as soon as he could, swing the club, and he played up until he was almost 90.
Wow.
So, he didn't play every day. He didn't play every week sometimes, but he played in college. He was great in college. He could have probably played in the pros, but in those days, they didn't pay that much, and he probably wouldn't have been more than just an average guy at best.
I wonder. I don't think golf has really changed that much.
No, it really hasn't.
200 years.
It's been around for a long time. The only thing that's changed are the chemical makeup of these drivers, with titanium and so on. But no, and the courses are a lot more pristine and more specialized. But you're right, the game hasn't changed that much. That's the beauty of it. It's like baseball. Baseball really has not changed that much since the turn of the 19th to the 20th century. Yeah. It's pretty much the same game that it was then.
That's true.
That's the beauty of it. And I think all the great sports, you think about basketball. Basketball has changed dramatically just in the last 40, 50 years. Football has changed dramatically. Soccer is another sport that has really not changed a lot.
It's kind of hard to change. You're kind of appalling.
All you have to do, that's the beauty of, the beauty of soccer and the beauty, and to a lesser degree of hockey, is kick the ball, put it in the net, or stop the other team from doing it. It's pretty easy to understand. So universally, that's why it's so popular.
So they got flopping now and all that.
I know, that kind of stuff is ridiculous. That is ridiculous.
So, okay, what major changes have you seen, let's say, in football? I guess, one of the things I can think of is the passing game.
Passing game is, became
runs back in
the 30s and 40s and 20s. Yeah, it was, and I mean, it was even almost banished by Teddy Roosevelt, the president at the time. Seriously, he actually got up publicly and said we should stop playing this game, and because men were getting killed or seriously wounded because they weren't wearing helmets. Not even a simple helmet, and so nowadays I think the game has gotten so specialized. It's a lot of fun to watch. I would not urge my kid to play football for the simple reason that it's just constant, collisions.
Yeah.
And you talk to guys like Charles Woodson, for instance, who's going to be 39 years old this year, and he looks like he's in great shape, and he probably has learned to minimize the impact. But he hits people sometimes with a force like Ronnie Lott or Junior Seau. Yeah. And those guys, they don't walk away from the game unscathed. I mean,
Junior, sure.
Yeah. And now Ronnie is doing really well. Ronnie was one of the toughest hitters around. He's got to be about 56 now.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, "Are you doing okay?" He goes, "Yeah, outside of a little pain here and there." I think he just was very lucky. And, poor Junior.
Also, remember, he's look at the position he played.
Yeah. He blitzed a lot, and he was a guy in the open field. You did not want to get hit by Ronnie Lott. Yeah. That was not a guy you wanted to run into. And Junior Seau was the same way. Linebackers in general are crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, I noticed that Patrick Willis and this young kid, Chris Borland, who was a standout last year with the 49ers, both retired. Both of them citing injury problems. Willis, 31, and Borland only 23. Yeah. And we're seeing more and more of that in pro football. Anthony Davis, 25-year-old offensive lineman, a two-time All-Pro, retires.
Well, I guess they look and they see what's going on.
Yeah, well, they made a lot of money already. I mean, they haven't made as much as they can, but if they're smart, they'll invest their money and do something else. And I don't blame them. I mean, I love the game of football, but it's a vicious, brutal, violent sport that chews you up physically.
Well, the interesting thing, you mentioned about Teddy Roosevelt banning football.
Well, he talked about it.
He talked about it. Did he ever talk about banning boxing?
I think people understand when you get in the ring, you know what you're. Football, it's a little. I guess we should realize that football is probably, in some respects, worse than boxing. Although in boxing, you're getting constantly hit in the head. Football, you're getting hit everywhere. Shoulders, back, knees.
Yeah, well, look what they have in the MMA fighting.
Well, and I'm just thinking, that stuff is nasty. But I'm just thinking about Jim Brown, for instance. He retired at the peak of his career. He was 30 years old. And you see him today. He's in his late 70s. He's doing great. He's not had a lot of problems because he retired before he got really seriously injured.
Because Gale Sayers, he had that broken leg.
No, he had a couple of knee problems. Yeah, Jimmy Johnson of the 49ers hit him in the open field and just destroyed his knee when he was about 25. He came back, and then another 49er, Kermit Alexander, hit him, and that pretty much wrecked him. He had to retire at 26 or 27. But, man, there was a game when I was a kid. I remember this game vividly, 1966 or 65. Wrigley Field, cold day, rainy, field is muddy and nasty. Gale Sayers ran for 6 touchdowns that day against the 49ers. And I'm listening to it on the radio. I was on a hike with my dad. I had a transistor radio. And I'm listening to this, and I'm just not believing what I'm hearing. I mean, the guy he was amazing. He was incredible. So, but he got hurt, and unfortunately, that ended his career at an early age, relatively speaking.
Yeah, still remember Brian's song.
Great movie, great film. The Heartrender, and first big breakthrough for James Caan and Billy D. Williams, who played Gale Sayers. Yeah,
because Piccolo died at 26, I think.
He was 26. Yeah, he'd only played in the NFL about 4 years. He had one really pretty good year. But James Caan played that role. And I'll never forget. I was in college at the time, 1970, and it got a huge amount of play in the national media. Because Gale Sayers was still a big name in those days, even though he'd been out of the game. Yeah. Monday Night Football had just started, and they really played. And it was a made-for-television movie, so it wasn't in the theaters. People got to see it on primetime television. James Whitmore played George Halas, great role. Or was it maybe James Whitmore? It was Jack Weston. I'm sorry, or somebody like that. I can't remember. One of the older, more venerable but not big name actors. Anyway, that was a heartbreaker, heart stopper. Sad, very sad.
I'll tell you what, after all that sad news, we're going to go into sadder news by talking about who was banned in baseball.
Oh, yeah.
All right, then when we come back, we're going to call our guest, David Carter from Sports.
Sounds good.
Business Group. That's a nice, easy name to remember.
And where's David working out of?
USC, I believe. Our intern, Casey, turned us on to him, and so he said he'd be available.
Great.
So we'll see what he wants to talk about.
Okay,
here we go. Which Dodger and Yankee pitcher was banned for, why did I say Yankee pitcher?
Well, maybe he pitched for both teams at different times in his career.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. I'm thinking of someone else. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes. Which Dodger and Yankee pitcher was banned in 1992 for cocaine and alcohol abuse, then was reinstated, then retired in 1996 after being suspended 3 more times?
Oh, I think I know.
You'll know the answer. I mean, all these questions, at least you'll know all of the people. All right, so email edward@sportsecon101.com the answer to that question. And when we come back, we'll answer the question, and then we will introduce our guest, David Carter from Sports Business Group. Stay with us.
I'm thinking Steve Howe.
Yes.
I got a quick story I'll tell about him, too.
Okay.
It's a good one. Oops. What was that? I turned on
Good timing.
101 degrees in my backyard in the shade. That's in Terra Linda.
Wow.
Ooh.
Is that a friend? Or?
Oh, that's my wife's mom.
And they said today was going to be the hot day.
Yeah, and tomorrow, but not quite so bad.
Yeah, I got to go down to Sunnyvale on Thursday. I was thinking about taking my motorcycle, but that's a far drive. I'm concerned about that. Yeah, I don't think I will.
I think it's going to cool off. It's supposed today and tomorrow are supposed to be the hot ones.
minutes. Then we'll
Okay.
call.
Sounds like a deal. It's nice, I tell you. Anytime we want to stay with my in-laws, it's fun because they have a pool,
Good.
and they always like to either go out to dinner to this. There's a couple of nice places to eat, or just have a big barbecue.
Oh,
So
nice.
it's nice for my mother-in-law to hang out with the daughter and the granddaughter. And my father-in-law is like an older brother to me.
Okay.
So it's nice. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah,
I married into a really nice family.
That's nice.
Yeah.
No, I bet Molly loves swimming. And
Oh yeah. I just wish I could get Molly to go. I got to get her to go visit my mom. Unfortunately, she's like me. It's hard for me, and even at this late stage, I have to make a real effort. I've been going to see her, but only maybe a couple times a month. I just don't.
It's hard.
I don't.
Hospital, just those care facilities.
Well, no, it's not that. The care facility is fine. That's not the problem. It's just my mom and I, for some reason, we just. It's not we don't like each other, but there's just not a lot of connection. Yeah, and there hasn't been. I just don't like the way she behaved towards my dad, towards my brother, towards my sister. And I'm not blaming her. That's who she is. But it's just I carry a lot of resentment for that. I saw the way my dad, what he had to put up with. I saw the way he treated my brother, who was not easy to deal with.
Yeah.
He had a lot of problems. And then my sister tells me some of the things that she did to her, and I just think, what the fuck? I hate to say that. Why? Why do parents do that? I mean, just
because you said she grew up in a decent family.
Very well. Her mom was a drunk, and she wasn't one of those obnoxious drunks. She was a silent, kind of a quiet drunk, and she wasn't really a bright woman, and didn't have a whole lot going for her. She was very attractive, but she would kind of get tipsy at the table, and then my grandfather used to tell my mom, he'd kind of give her a look. She was like 12 years old, put her to bed, and she'd have to take her in the bathroom while Grandma was throwing up. And put her to bed. And so my mom didn't really have a mom.
Yeah,
didn't really have that kind of and so she didn't grow up. She wasn't the real loving, sweet, I love you, put my arms around you, kiss you.
Yeah.
Mom. Maybe when I was a little baby, she was very good then. And when I was a little boy, she was very good. But by that time I got to be about 10, 11, 12, my brother and I were becoming a little bit of a pain. She was okay. She wasn't abusive. Wasn't abusive. She didn't hit us or anything.
No, but
just was not a pleasant person. Yeah, it's too bad because
sometimes it can still feel
very bright, worldly woman. Probably even a little smarter than my dad, who was very bright. But
well, good afternoon.
Well, is this you, David?
It sure is.
Oh, good. Hey, so let me introduce you to our other my co-host here, Bruce McGowan.
Hey, David, how are you?
Good afternoon.
It's hot up here. Is it hot down there?
It's not too bad at the beach. A little toasty, but not too bad.
I was out just surfing here in just north of the Golden Gate. It was about 65, and now 10 miles north where Edward works in downtown San Rafael, it's 95. So our little microclimates.
I know how that is. That's exactly how it is at the beach downtown LA. Here. But,
oh boy.
Wow. So we finally got this done.
Yeah, exactly. So now you work. You're the president of Sports Business Group.
I'm the principal. I'm pretty much a one-man band.
Okay.
I bring in other people when I need consulting support. But for the most part, it's just me. I do that to complement what I'm doing at USC as well, or vice versa, depending on the time of the year.
Okay. And what you want to tell Bruce exactly like what you do, and then what you'd like to talk about?
I'm sorry.
You go ahead and tell Bruce. What you do specifically and what you'd like to talk about today. And we'll just make it a fun show.
Yeah, first of all, how long do you anticipate this taping being?
Let's see. We've got, excuse me, we already did the first couple of segments. And so we've got an 11-minute, 30-second segment and a 13-minute and 45-second right after that, if you wanted to stay for both.
Yeah, either way, I think as long as we can wrap this up around 4-ish, that would be fantastic.
Okay.
Did you want to, I'm a little confused. Did you want to talk about my credentials on the air or just as part of the setup?
No, just part of the setup.
Great. That makes a lot of sense. So the Sports Business Group is my consultancy, and I get involved in advising municipalities, potential team owners, corporations, mostly on strategy stuff.
Okay.
I also historically done a fair amount of work as an expert witness in sports business trials, whether those are athlete contracts or municipal contracts or sponsorship agreements or what have you. I'm also spending a fair amount of time on and populating boards of directors and boards of advisors for sports organizations. So it's really kind of inside baseball stuff in terms of the sports business group.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what. Since you've got to leave at 4, it sounds like we're not going to be able to do 2 segments because that would be 25 minutes worth. So
right.
So let's go ahead and excuse me. let's get this segment in, which is 11 minutes and 30 seconds, and then I guess we can just let you go on that. Okay?
That'd be fine.
Yeah, because it's amazing how fast this time goes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to welcome the audience back. Introduce myself again and Bruce, and then I've got a quick trivia question we asked that we're going to answer on the air, and then we'll as soon as we introduce you specifically, then you can welcome us too. Okay?
With respect to topics, we never really even discussed it, so I'll follow your lead.
Yeah, because I'd like to talk about like expert witness sports contracts. I think that'd be interesting because it's amazing how fast 11 minutes and 30 seconds go.
No doubt.
Okay, now you ready? Here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. When we cut to the first commercial break, we asked this trivia question about banned in baseball. Which Dodger and Yankee pitcher was banned in 1992 for cocaine and alcohol abuse, then was reinstated, then retired in 1996 after being suspended for 3 more times?
Unfortunately, with Steve Howe, I don't think he's around anymore either. I think drugs got the best of him. Very sad story. I covered him when he was making a minor league rehab start back in the mid '80s, and he seemed to be on the right track. You know, he had been an outstanding pitcher in the early 80s.
Yeah, I remember that.
He just could not stay away from the drugs.
Yeah, specifically with the Dodgers, I remember.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so our guest is now on the phone, and it's David Carter from Sports Business Group. David, welcome to Sports Econ 101.
Good afternoon, guys.
Good. Now, I understand part of your credentials is that you've been an expert witness in sports contracts. Can you get into that a little bit more?
Yeah, you know, just like any big industry, the sports industry has its fair share of litigation going on. And, you know, when you think about municipalities trying to cut deals with teams or team owners, oftentimes those deals fall apart. You've seen so many, on a global basis, so many athletes be suspended or fired from their endorsement contracts for cause, whether that's a positive drug test or some other kind of moral breach, perhaps. And you see sponsors routinely going sideways on some of their agreements, not fulfilling some of their obligations. And so, in the court of law, when you think about just how big hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars the sports industry is, there's really no surprise that there would be a legal component to it that requires people coming in court as an expert witness.
One of the things I was going to say that you also do is you advise team owners. You talk to teams about various strategies, and how does that work, and how much how much conversation, how much time do you actually spend with these guys, and can you give us some specifics about what you're doing there?
Well, I think what typically happens, where I hear about a lot of my clientele are people that might be interested in buying a team. They need to understand what that process is like, and I might help them more with the broad strategy approach. And then when it comes down to subject matter experts, such as the guys that are actually going to crunch the numbers, or perhaps people that are going to sell the sponsorships and personal team licenses, they would turn it over to them. And then on the flip side of that, you can imagine that local governments, cities of Los Angeles, for example, and others that are even right now going after an NFL franchise market, they need to understand what it takes to persuade an owner to come, build the right kind of stadium, understand what the financing looks like. And so there are multiple parties involved, even if you're trying to get a stadium deal done. You can represent or maybe consult the owner, but you can also take the side of the city because they certainly are not sports marketing and sports business experts with team owners.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of these bonds getting floated out there seem to be, quite a contentious subject.
Well, it's interesting too, David. I mean, this whole thing with the possibility of the Raiders, the Chargers, and the Rams, 2 of those 3 teams may be moving back to LA for the first time in over 20 years. LA will have not one, but maybe 2 teams in the NFL if this new stadium is going to be built. I got to ask you, what's the latest on that, and what are the chances of, say, the Raiders and Chargers or Raiders and Rams moving to Los Angeles in the near future?
Well, as you talked about, this has been going on for 20 years now, and so many moving parts to it from the standpoint of what's it really going to mean economically, not just in terms of economic impact to the region, but what about that owner? Is that owner going to be able to maximize the money from real estate development, which has become a critical plank for owners trying to generate non-shared revenue? What does it mean in terms of their ability to sell massive naming rights deals and founding partnerships that to offset the cost. You clearly have personal seat licenses, corporations and individuals paying anywhere would likely be $50,000 to $100,000 for personal seat licenses. So the economics of this thing is huge, and it keeps shifting. One minute you hear that there might be some progress made in St. Louis, and the next you hear that the San Diego Chargers are really sideways with their elected officials. All the while, nobody seems to believe a whole lot in the Raiders' plan going forward. And yet every week it seems to change a little bit. So to try to handicap it is really very difficult. What seems to be certain is the NFL believes one of these teams is certainly going to be on the move because they've begun navigating a local venue, whether that team to relocate plays temporarily to the Coliseum or the Rose Bowl or perhaps the StubHub Center in Carson. The fact that the NFL is putting out requests for proposals for a temporary venue suggests that they are confident something's going to happen, but they don't know what.
Well, besides the Oakland Coliseum, what other stadiums are in such disarray?
I guess the LA Coliseum, David, is it still in pretty good shape? I know USC plays there, and UCLA hasn't played there for years, but USC kind of has that place to itself, doesn't it?
Well, USC, the university, actually took over the operating rights of the Coliseum about 6 months to a year ago. So they're going to be renovating that, and they're going to control that. And in fact, you raised a good point. UCLA now plays the Rose Bowl. They've been there for a very, very long time. Both of those universities, I believe, have veto rights. They need to be they need to sign off on a potential NFL tenant because that kind of temporary construction and activity would be something that would affect them materially. They want to make sure that deal is right for them. So those two universities will play a real role going forward in the NFL if those venues steps up. It looks like it's a great temporary location.
It is interesting though because I just can't believe LA has not had an NFL team for 21 years now. The Raiders and the Rams, as a lot of people might remember, left after the 1994 season, and now there's the specter of both teams coming back. And wouldn't it be something if LA gets two teams? Tell me what you think of this, David, because I hear a lot of fans down in LA that say, oh, we kind of like not having a team here because we get all the prime games on the local television. We get the best games every week.
Well, I think there are a couple things that are really going on there. You obviously have been well documented. Southern California has so many other options for your entertainment dollars. And fans from all over the country are now living in LA and rooting for their home team, whether that's in Pittsburgh, Dallas, or Tampa, wherever it may be. And I think in the abstract, fans would like to have one or two teams here in Southern California, but that's just it. It's in the abstract. They're not going to really care very much the minute that team goes 3-13. And I think on top of that, there's certainly going to be an issue with pricing because it'll be one of the most expensive tickets in sports, from a season ticket or a per game. That proverbial family of four going to a game, it's going to be very, very expensive. So the very fans that are clamoring for it may not realize quite yet that they're not going to be able to afford to get in the building. And if they do, I think they have to understand, and maybe they're more attuned to this part of it, that the team that would be playing there would be the fact that Southern California would be bringing in someone else's problem. And so they might need to be a little bit patient with that and understand what it's going to take to make that team successful in this region.
Yeah.
I was going to say, David, can I change subject for a minute here? Because there was something I've been wanting to bring up for a while, and now I've got the opportunity because I've got someone who's sports business here. Is what do you know about loss of value policies? I guess what I'm getting at here is specifically former USC receiver Marquise Lee was suing over an insurance policy because he was considered a first-round prospect in the 2014 NFL draft before the 2013 football season. But then he gets injured, and he tries to collect on this loss of value insurance from Lloyd's of London. Are you familiar with those kind of policies?
I am indeed. I in fact, had helped broker some of those types of policies over the years. And I think what's becoming very interesting is it's really about if someone, in this case, falls in the draft due to injury or illness, they are able to protect that potential free fall a couple of rounds by insuring against it. And then they have the ability to contract that they get, and then they're also going to get insurance payments. The problem is really twofold, I think, and many athletes are not going after these policies anymore. One is it can be very subjective, and I think that opens up itself to even more litigation going forward with the finger point that's going to take place. Secondarily, if it's really about injury or illness, have an insurance policy just against a career-ending injury, or a really severely disabling injury over the medium long term. Medicine's come so far, technology is so great that you may not really see anything like a career-ending injury anymore the way we thought about them in the past. So, medicine has certainly made huge progress here. You combine that with subjectivity attached to some of these policies, and I think you find them to be less certain and less clear than they appear to be on the written paper.
Yeah, I think it's kind of wild when some of these policies are written as a lower draft choice. So it's not even as much an injury thing as it is, hey, if I don't go in the first round, then theoretically I'm not going to get as big a paycheck, and so I'm going to insure against that. And that.
My understanding is that it has to be due to injury or illness, not simply be someone falling in the draft for a sheer lack of performance or lack of effort.
Of course, how does one know, right? I mean, if the Jacksonville Jaguars decide not to take somebody in the first round, but they choose to take them in the third round, do they have to say why they did it? You know what I mean? And that's where the subjectivity I can see comes in with regard to the injury.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think still a first-round pick is usually going to. That'll happen though. There are guys that have fallen down in the draft, and it's interesting.
Well,
Wow, this is fascinating stuff, David. The typical fan and the typical media person, we get so wrapped up in the day-to-day activities of the sport itself that we don't sometimes look at what's going on behind the scenes. And in this day and age, it's so much more sophisticated and so much bigger in terms of the dollars and cents than it was when Edward and I were growing up and when you were growing up.
Yeah, I mean, just look at some of the current events going on right now. You've got major lawsuits dealing with intellectual property in college sports, the Ed O'Bannon case, and then on top of that, you have the paying the athletes a stipend going forward in terms of cost of living and cost of full enrollment and so forth. You've got controversy around the bid for the Olympics in Boston. You've got a mess on your hands in Rio trying to pull off the games next summer. And you just look around, and there is so much going on, so much money flowing in and out of it that as an industry, it needs to become more sophisticated. And I think we're all accustomed to reading about it in sports pages, but now just as easy to be reading about it in the Wall Street Journal.
Yeah, right. Hey, David, we got to get to another commercial break here. Thank you so much for joining us. Is there a website you want to give us?
No, I'm good. You can either look at sportsbusinessgroup.com or take a look at my work at the University of Southern California through the USC Sports Business.
Thank you so much.
Good stuff, David. Really appreciate it, man.
Bye-bye. Thanks, guys.
Sorry about that. We were running over.
Yeah.
Okay, real quickly. Which New York Yankee Hall of Famer was banned from baseball after he retired by Bowie Kuhn? Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101.
Mickey Mantle.
That's it.
Yeah.
I'd forgotten about that.
That's interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Wow,
I wish he could have stayed with us longer, but
it sounds like he was on a tight schedule.
Yeah.
Well, that's okay. Your average fan probably doesn't find that stuff interesting, but I do. I don't know about you. I'm sure you do because that's kind of not that unrelated to some of the things you're dealing with.
No, you're right. And I mean, the show is about this
kind
of
supposed
stuff.
to be.
So.
Yeah, we talk about it so often. Yeah. Sometimes I wish I had been a little bit more. It's funny. I think I told you I was in a business fraternity. All my fraternity brothers were like econ majors and accounting majors, whatever. And they've all done really well. They're nice guys, but I felt like, God, I'm a journalist, I'm a speech minor, English minor, mass comm major, and we didn't have anything in common in terms of education. But if you want to be in a fraternity where you, so I felt kind of bad when I walked out of there, and the guys sort of took it personally. I said, no, please don't do that. Don't take it personally. Because I've stayed friends with some of them. No. It's interesting though. One guy said, "You ever heard of the Diners Club?"
Yeah.
Yeah, he runs that out of Denver.
Wow, is that still around?
It's still around.
It used to be the only card for many years.
Yeah, no, it's still around. It's not as big as it used to be, but it's still, it's been around for like 70 years, 60 years.
I think that was the first credit card.
Yeah. He got into it, and he's pretty much running it now. He's probably in his early 60s. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
I wonder what kind of business they do. Because everything MasterCard.
Who knows? He's probably scaled back. And knowing him, he's probably enjoying life a little bit. He was one of those guys. I remember when we were in college, he was working. He came out here on an internship, and he was, in the middle of it, like 19, 20 years old. He's busting his hump somewhere. And I'm thinking, wow, this guy's going to be very successful. Here I am, working at the restaurant, washing dishes and surfing and going to ball games.
There you go. Hey, that's the life. That's what I want to be doing.
I don't know if you want to do the dishwashing, but the other stuff sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
Okay.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. One more time, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. When we cut to the second commercial break, we asked this trivia question about banned from baseball. Which New York Yankee Hall of Famer was banned from baseball after he retired by Bowie Kuhn?
That would have been Mickey Mantle, and it's interesting. Mickey Mantle and Willie Mays were both banned from baseball because of their associations with gambling casinos. All they were doing was some PR work, but Bowie Kuhn did not like, there's this old thing about that sacrosanct. You can't be involved with betting, the betting world. And so in 1979, both of them were banished, and it was extremely unpopular. And I'll never forget, I was working for a radio station in Seattle, Edward, at the time. We were doing some shows, and we talked about this and got a lot of people riled up about it. And they were not allowed back into the game, I think, until Peter Ueberroth in 1985 reinstated them.
6 years.
6 years, yeah. And Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle were the two icons of the sport from probably 55 through 65. They were among the icons, but they were right front and center.
Yeah, and that was the interesting thing. They weren't like, as we talked about with Pete Rose, betting on baseball or anything.
No.
All they were was just the front man of just like,
greeter or, just somebody out there who's doing a little PR work. And, I hate to say, Willie Mays and Mickey Mantle both did very well financially. Willie especially, because when he was playing, it's an interesting story. Willie actually was bankrupt for a while.
Really?
Yeah, he was almost bankrupt. And he got a hold of a financial advisor when he was about 31. He went through a tough divorce, lost a bunch of money there. And this guy not only straightened him out, but got him invested in some good things. And Willie is not a multi-gazillionaire, but he's doing very well, has always done very well, has always lived very comfortably because he's been managed well and he understands the business aspect of sports. It took him a while, though, to get that. He had to go through some tough times, but when he hit 31, 32, and just when he's hitting his peak years, this guy, I can't remember the fellow's name, he was running a bank in San Francisco. They became acquainted, helped Willie out, and of course Mickey Mantle had so many endorsements being in New York. He had his problems with alcohol, but he stayed out of trouble financially too. So
that's interesting. It's like, you would hope, and I don't know, does Willie talk to some of the younger players?
Oh yeah, no, Willie comes around even today, and Willie is 84 years old. He still comes around to the ballpark, not as often as he used to, but when he shows up, it's almost like an oracle shows up. But the young players today are so much younger than him. A lot of them, they've heard of him, but he's a distant
Oh my gosh. Is it
but,
heard of it?
Yeah, no, they know of him. They know who he was. It's just that it doesn't have quite the impact because they didn't grow up, hearing that much about him as the guys who grew up playing baseball in the 80s. Or the 90s. When I used to cover the Giants in the 80s and 90s, especially the 90s when Barry Bonds was there, and Willie would come around a lot, the players would just, he'd go down and sit down and talk to Bonds or talk to Ken or talk to whoever he felt like it. Yeah. And, it was like having the greatest pianist, say you're, striving to become a Carnegie Hall pianist, having, Yasha Heifetz sit down with you, or I guess he was a violinist, but you know what I'm saying, Van Cliburn or somebody, sit down with you and show you just some techniques, and it was just amazing to me that Willie would do this on a regular basis. He'd show up unannounced, and it was great. And he was always he had a kind of an irascible attitude. He was sort of, but once he got to know you, nicest guy, and what a storyteller.
Oh, I can imagine.
He would go off and tell you stories about, you just get him to talk. You had to get him to talk, though. That was always tough. One time, I remember the first time I ever did an interview with Willie Mays, he looked at me, he goes, I don't know where you've been from, but I've been coming around here a lot. I don't know about you. And I thought, oh my God.
That sounds just like him.
Well, he always had that kind of high-pitched voice. And, Willie was, I consider him a friend. We're not good friends, but every time I see him, and I haven't seen him for about a year or two, but from the early 90s all the way up until the last few years, because I was covering the team so closely for the radio station, he heard me on the air a lot, and we became friends. And just a good guy. He's a little bit irascible, but Willie Mays, God Almighty, was the best all-around player the game has ever seen, no question.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like, you talk about, let's say, like I never saw Ted Williams play. His last game I think was 1960.
1960,
where I was born.
Yeah.
And
he had a home run in his last at bat.
That's I remember hearing about it
at Fenway Park.
So but my dad was a big Ted Williams fan, even though my dad grew up in New York.
Sure.
And yet, if I were a player and I had met Ted Williams, I mean, you know, or well, of course, I was really into the older baseball. So, like, you know, if I met Ty Cobb or Honus Wagner, I mean, I still would have been enamored with that. I don't know. Maybe some of these guys are into rap music instead. You know?
Well, no, there are a lot of young guys today. I mean, I'm not saying they're not interested in. They know who these players are, but they're not as enamored with them. Probably because we're so wrapped up in the here and the now, and nostalgia is still big, but it's bigger with older people. Back when we were kids, it was big with young people too, but not like it is today.
The thing is, like we were talking about, the game hasn't changed that much.
No, it hasn't.
And so there's so much wisdom that Willie can share with these
my
guys.
God. Well,
and running and pitchers and all that.
And a more contemporary guy, Barry Bonds, is as much as he has been painted with a brush, and rightly so, for his involvement with PEDs and steroids, he is still, if you talk to him and sit down and talk baseball with him, it's like talking to a guy who's got a doctorate in baseball. And I think the Giants are slowly thawing and allowing him to come back. He's been doing more and more appearances. You know, time will pass. The unfortunate thing is he and all of his cohorts, the Mark McGuire's and the Roger Clemens and the Rafael Palmeiros, are going to forever be kept out of the Hall of Fame. I don't think it's right. I think Bonds and Clemens should be in. They were Hall of Famers before they started doing steroids. But a lot of people are just self-righteous and say, oh, you know, the thing is that, you know, we don't know what guys were doing back in the 20s and 30s and 40s and 50s. They could have been doing things. They weren't doing PEDs, but they were doing other things.
There's other ways to cheat.
Yeah, there were other ways to cheat. Oh, and believe me, yeah, they did. Spitballs were cheating.
I was going to say, spitballs, yeah. What was it? Burley Grimes was the last guy to
they actually allowed him to throw the spitball. But Gaylord Perry, the spitter, saved his career, and he didn't actually use a spitball. He used Vaseline, and he hit it so skillfully. He hit it in the tongue of his glove, or his shoe, hit it in the canal of his ear, hit it sometimes even in his nostril. And when they go check him, just try to find it, they could never find it. And it was funny because he'd always put it in a place they'd never look. You know, they wouldn't look at the canal of his ear.
Yeah.
And I asked him, I said, doesn't that bother you a little? He goes, not really. No, I would just put just enough in there. And then he'd make all these little movements. You know, he'd touch his cap and he'd touch his shoulders. And it would drive the players crazy. Where's he getting it?
Yeah.
You know, where's it coming from?
Yeah, because once you feel the ball, you can say, well, there's something on this thing.
But I'm telling you, he was a decent pitcher, but nothing great. And then in 1966, he won 12 of his first 13 decisions. And that's when his career really started taking off. And then he pitched till he was 40. So he was about 30 or maybe about 28 when he started to turn his career. So he had like 12, 13 great years. He won 2 Cy Youngs. You know, I mean, he was amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But like you said, how much of that was the cheating part?
Well, he'll tell you today, and he'll kind of say with a little twinkle in his eye, I didn't cheat. And then, you know, he knows, you know, I mean, what is cheating? I mean, Mike Scott, who was a Cy Young winner back in '86 with the Houston Astros, used an emery board, you know, on his, and I remember going to a game at Candlestick in '87, and Scott's on the mound, and all these fans had brought little pieces of sandpaper and emery board, and every time he got ready to pitch it, sounded like a bunch of crickets or something out there.
Who was the one
cicadas?
When the umpires go to the mound because they suspect cheating, he reaches in his pocket and he just kind of pulls out. And it
flipped out.
I
think that was Mike Scott.
Was that Mike Scott?
Yeah, it might have been. It might have been. There were a few guys that got caught that way. It was like, oh, I didn't know that was there.
You know, the funny thing is about the PEDs is, see, Andy Pettit, he just immediately, if I remember correctly, he just immediately said, yeah, you're right, I did, and I'm really sorry about it. And if right now, I'll bet people forget that he did any steroids.
Same thing with Jason Giambi. He never actually admitted that he took them, but he said, yeah, you know, people shouldn't be doing them, and I've been involved too. But he never actually came right out and said, I did. Somebody asked him, you know, did you really? Oh, well, actually, you know.
Well, the problem with like Canseco is that he seemed to kind of turn on too many players.
He turned on Mark McGuire to it, and then Jose, you know, came out and basically, you know, turned on his former teammates, and it's taken a long time for the A's and for baseball to forgive Jose for Canseco. And it's interesting, he's still playing minor league baseball just for fun. 50 years old.
Yeah.
You know, he's been through a lot. Not a bad guy, but he's kind of a strange dude. He's a different breed. He could have been a Hall of Famer. Yeah. I think he sold out. I really do. I hate to say it because I remember I covered him a lot back in the 80s, in the 90s when he was with the A's, and man, he was amazing, Edward. He could hit, he could throw, he could run, he could catch, he could do it all. Yeah. But he sold out for PEDs. Yeah. He didn't have to do that.
And I still remember the ball he hit in Toronto, where they colored
in the playoffs.
Yeah,
in the ALCS.
It hit so far that they literally colored it a different color.
470 feet or
something like something ridiculous.
Yeah.
You know, it just recently came out with Pete Rose, where now suddenly they're talking about him betting when he was
a player. They found a small book apparently with notes in it, and I'm not sure exactly how that was discovered, but that really pretty much
that's going to seal it. I think.
Fait accompli. You know, and the sad thing about Pete Rose, he's like a lot of gamblers. They're in denial. You know, like a lot of drinkers, they're in denial, and he's
is it that or just trying to hide it?
I think it's just. I really think he didn't think he did anything wrong, and he may not have actually bet against his team. But even if you bet for your team, you're not supposed to do that.
You're not supposed to bet on any team.
No, you're not supposed to bet on any team. But if you bet on your own team, then it's like the Black Sox scandal of the 1919 when there were 8 guys and basically 5 key players that threw games in the World Series, and that kind of set the precedent. And you know, it's too bad because Pete Rose. I mean, there was
for sure. Yeah, I mean, what most
dedicated.
Ever,
yeah, he was dedicated. And another guy that I loved talking to back in the '80s, whenever the Reds would come to Candlestick to play the Giants, sit down with him, and he'd give you 20 minutes. And seriously, give you 20 minutes and just talk your ear off. And then if you wanted to do an interview, he'd say, "Oh, sure, turn the tape recorder." Pete Rose.
Oh,
yeah, great guy. And it was like talking to Barry Bonds. You'd get an education about pitching, about fielding, about running, and he tells stories.
That's interesting. I would have thought that Pete would have been a little bit more curmudgeon.
No, not at all. Pete was one of the most likable guys in terms of the media. He was honest to a fault, and he was more than happy to talk about anything except for gambling. And no, he was great. I loved him.
Wasn't he the guy who kind of, I don't want to say invented, but basically started the Fed First Life?
Oh, no question. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm sure there were other people that tried it before, and it's not a wise thing to do, but it was just his enthusiasm and his grittiness and his desire to get that extra little jump. I mean, yeah, he kind of revolutionized the game.
I remember playing softball one time and going, I'm going to try this. Well, not realizing that my field that I played on was a lot rougher than what they play in the big leagues. And it's all, this is chopped red brick.
Yeah.
And I didn't get my arms up enough. And I was like,
ah! Yeah, you not only scrape yourself, you can, break your fingers, break your hand. But of course, I mean, you can do the same thing to your ankle, sliding into home. But it has not proven to be that effective. It's just the idea of somebody coming in head first at you, especially, I remember Scott Cousins of the Marlins a couple of years ago hit Buster Posey, was in a vulnerable position at the plate and cracked his ankle, broke his leg actually, and they've kind of limited those collisions now, which I think is a shame because I like the collisions even though they're tough, but they were such an exciting part of the game. Now they've limited them, but you don't want to.
Well, if you look at that play too, Buster, I think he's not thinking at the time, but his positioning of his foot was not very
well. He wasn't ready to. He was vulnerable. He was off balance, and Cousins hit him at just the absolute wrong time. Yeah. It's amazing. Posey's come back. He's leading the All-Star vote getters, and he's come back and as good as ever.
Yeah, and it was 2011, so it was an odd year. So the Giants were not allowed to win the World Series.
They
were only allowed to win even years.
That probably will be the case this year. As good as they're playing, I don't know.
It's tough.
Yeah.
Okay, here's our third and final trivia question. Fast show today.
Yeah.
Okay, this is banned from baseball is our theme. Which pitcher was banned from baseball in 1980 and still later became a member of the Hall of Fame?
Okay.
The first 3 emails with the correct answer are going to win a free 3-day 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort. Email edward@sportsecon101.com the answer to that question. Which pitcher was banned from baseball in 1980 and later became a member of the Hall of Fame?
Well, I'm stumped on that one.
All right.
Yeah. I should know that, too.
You will know that pitcher.
I started covering Major League Baseball on a regular basis in 1980.
Once I mention him, you're going to go,
you're
going to pull a Homer Simpson.
Of course.
All right, stay with us. Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back.
All right. Don't. I'm trying to think. Banned in 1980, but he's in the Hall of Fame.
And I don't think he belongs. Personally, I don't think he belongs in the Hall of Fame.
Was he banned because he did something not on the field that was illegal, but something off the field that was illegal?
I believe,
personal behavior.
I believe so.
Murder?
No, not that.
No major crime.
No, not.
Okay, I'll leave it to you to give the answer. I'm sure this is one I'm going to remember.
Oh, yeah. This would be a good time to
Okay.
call our friend Vern.
Yeah, this would be great. God, I've not been to any baseball games since the end of the Warriors season. I think I've been to I've been to 8 games this year. That's it. I'm probably only going to go to about 25. I just, Edward, I went to about 120 games for 30 years. I love baseball, but that's a lot of baseball.
That's a lot of games, and it's not like it's down the street.
No. From 1980 to 1980 to last year is probably about 100 games. Not recently 100 games, but overall, a lot of games.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. We stumped Bruce on this one. Here was the third and final trivia question. Which pitcher was banned from baseball in 1980 and still later became a member of the Hall of Fame?
Obviously, he didn't do PEDs and he didn't gamble, so you got to give me the answer.
Ferguson Jenkins.
Now, I remember he had a cocaine
That's what it was.
thing.
Drugs.
It was I think it was I think he either was caught with it when he was crossing the border because he's from Canada.
That's what it was.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
I mean, cocaine was a real scourge in the early '80s.
Yeah.
I'll never forget. I was leaving Yankee Stadium covering a game, and I won't mention the guys' names, but there were 2 prominent players, one of the Yankees, one of the Rangers, and they were literally doing lines in their car. And one of them looked over at me and said, "Hey, you want to come join us?" Seriously. And I just covered the game, and I thought, "Oh my God, that kind of stuff." And then of course Tim Raines, you heard the story about how he kept his cocaine capsules in his front pocket because he didn't want to break them when he slid in on his backside.
I know, I didn't hear that.
That's an old, that's a
I love
famous
Tim
one.
Raines.
Well, Tim Raines has been straightened his life out.
Has he?
He has.
He's a good guy.
A very good guy.
Okay, here's our thoughts for the day. Paul Harvey said, golf is a game in which you yell 4, shoot 6, and write down 5.
I like that.
And Jack Benny said, give me golf clubs, fresh air, and a beautiful partner, and you can keep the clubs in the fresh air.
Spoken like Jack Benny.
That's Jack Benny for you.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to wrap up today's show. Thanks for listening. Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective, giving away more free vacations for answering sports trivia questions. And next week, we're going to have our friend Vern Glenn, who was a previous co-host with us. And this time, he's just going to be a guest.
Yeah, local prominent television sportscaster has been in the Bay Area for over 23 years, I believe.
Rascal?
Yeah.
Yeah, he's going to call in because he's on location. He won't be able to join us, so he'll call in. All right, thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good evening, America.
So long.
All right,
All right, let's call Mr. Vern.